university and its leaders have shown through their actions that they care more about money from defense companies than they do about genocide and about their own students. They care more about hiding their investments than about transparency. They care more about profits and maintaining the current order rather than shared governance. We know this because we saw the university arrest its own students, bringing in police from multiple towns. We know this because the university refuses to divest from the military. We know this because the university neglects
That is time. Our next speaker, speaking in opposition, is Matthew Yilty.
Hello everyone. I stand before you yet again to plead my case against this referendum. Honestly, this is not something I want to be doing. I would much rather prefer to focus on learning and contributing to the UConn community. But the language in this referendum threatens to spread misinformation as well as ostracize and condemn a core part of my identity. The political environment is highly polarized, and each day spent focusing more on our differences increases our division. We owe it to ourselves and our fellow students to foster an environment that cultivates intellectual integrity, mutual respect, and honesty. Presenting this referendum before the student body would do just the opposite. Its language is anything but neutral. It would incite animosity across campus while offering no benefit other than ostracizing Jewish students and turning USG into a platform for division. This is an issue that I have learned about many times, yet I did not come to UConn to push an agenda or to persuade anybody of anything. I came here to learn and to study, and frankly, it is frustrating to have to spend my time protesting a biased referendum or being concerned with my safety as a Zionist Jew. Similarly, most students here did not come to UConn expecting to be forced to offer an opinion on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. For many, this referendum will be the first time they are introduced to the topic, let alone asked to take an opinion. And what they will see is biased, leading questions that pushes them towards a particular way of thinking. That drags students who may not have engaged with the issue before into a political campaign they don't fully understand, one with ties and agendas far beyond UConn. That is not what our student government should be doing. We have wasted countless hours bickering over this to no avail. USG should be focusing on the issues that matter to students' daily lives, not legitimizing a campaign that uses biased language to spread misinformation and hate. That is why I urge you to vote no on this referendum. We cannot let USG be turned into a tool for BDS propaganda, and we cannot break our own rules of neutrality by allowing this kind of language to move forward. Thank you.
Next up, speaking in favor, is Luca Kama.
Hello, I'm Luca Cana. I'm a junior political science and Spanish major. And I'm here today to push this referendum towards a positive and productive outcome. In 1986, UConn divested $217,000 from businesses involved in South Africa. Then, UConn students realized their tuition was supporting a racist apartheid regime and urged the schools to stop supporting it. Today, UConn is supporting another racist apartheid regime. Unfortunately, this racist apartheid regime is also committing genocide against the Palestinian people. At the very least, 100,000 civilians have been martyred since October 7, 2023. Mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, husbands, wives, sons, and daughters. Students at this university deserve to have transparency and a voice as to where their tuition is going today, just like they did in 1986 to divest from South Africa. For the senators here among us, I ask you, what are you so afraid of? If it's the guilt of having your names associated with the funding of a genocide, there's only one way I can help you, and that's to vote yes on this referendum.
Our next speaker, speaking in opposition, is Aviva Ross.
Good evening, my name is Aviva Ross. I'm a first-year student here at UConn. Right now, there is a holiday going on to celebrate the Jewish New Year. I should be there, celebrating my identity, but instead, I'm here defending it. I'm here to speak to you tonight regarding the proposed referendum and the biased and leading language that it promotes. The proposed referendum uses the word genocide, apartheid, and war crimes. Heavy, emotionally charged, and objectively negative terms that do not apply to the situation at hand. Their use here serves one purpose: to dishonestly shape student union, not to gauge it, as its proponents would suggest. In other words, this referendum is not neutral. It's a push-pull designed to promote a particular result. It is precisely to present push-pulls of this kind that in the UConn USG bylaws, Bylaw 6, referendum procedure, explicitly states the question of a referendum should be written clearly and consistently to make the question as neutral as possible. Proponents of this referendum have said this is just a poll, but it is not. It is a propaganda designed to shape and influence student union in a particular direction, and it is pulled straight from the BDS playbook. This is exactly how BDS tries to weaponize student governments, by inserting false, biased language into our processes in order to push misinformation and hate instead of fostering dialogue. For those reasons, I strongly urge you to vote no on this referendum. We cannot let USG be turned into a tool for BDS propaganda, and we certainly cannot do it by violating
30
our
seconds.
rules and standards. As a fee-paying undergrad student here at UConn, I urge you to vote no. Thank you.
Our next speaker in support is Keelan McWilliams.
Hello, I'm here to speak as a civil engineering student on behalf of many other engineering students who want to have our voices heard. Many engineers do not want to go on to work for the war industry or to have their work go towards the supporting of genocide. I should not have to make a choice between a career and the lives of children in Gaza. Engineers, we are problem solvers. We are not problem makers. As engineers, we are tasked with building a better future, building a better world, and not destroying the future of others. We can't, in good conscience, support the poisoning of the water, the bombing of civilians, and the burning of the olive trees in Palestine. The Senate should represent the ideas and concerns of engineering students like me, and allow our voices to be heard. As senators, you need to represent what the student body actually desires. And the best way for you to find out what the student body wants is to put this referendum before them. Thank you.
Our next speaker opposed is Eva Dannison.
Hello, my name is Eva Dannison. I'm the president of Jewish on Campus, a Jewish student organization here, and a double major in human rights and political science. Many of us here may disagree on many foreign policy topics, and that's completely okay. Times feel really scary and hectic on campus, domestically, and abroad. And trust me, I feel for you, and I want you to know advocacy has always been and will always be powerful, especially from students. However, BDS, boycotting, divestment, and sanctions from Israel, which is what this referendum is and has always been, paints issues in Israel and Gaza as black and white, and dismisses the rights of Palestinians, Israelis, Jews, Muslims, Arabs, and the immensely diverse population of Israel to conduct a meaningful dialogue for change. We can all agree that we all want peace. BDS dismisses any incentive to push for peace, empathy, and tolerance for each other. Universities in Israel and in the United States are where the pushes for change are actively taking place. On Israeli campuses, many Israelis and Palestinians are currently studying side by side and can engage in productive dialogue, pushing for meaningful change. Education is advocating for a liberal future in Israel, and dismissing and disregarding that and divesting, our university kicks aside all spaces for and incentives for peace, prosperity, and understanding. This referendum simply deepens divides and makes these spaces for dialogue increasingly less
30
accessible.
seconds.
Perhaps we should redirect our energy towards fighting for coexistence, moving in the direction where we can all learn side by side and benefit from what each and every one of us brings to the table. What is going on abroad is truly horrible, and we cannot dismiss that human suffering is a terrible thing. But divestment completely ignores the urge to end war and feel safe on campus. As a Jewish student with deep Israeli heritage, I feel sad every time this referendum is brought up, as it places immense blame on anyone who identifies with Israel. We all want peace, so let's start representing all voices. Thank you.
The next speaker in favor is Emily Keast.
Hello, my name is Emily Keese. I am a first-year fine arts student, and I'm here in favor of the referendum. The purpose of this referendum is transparency. That is all. We are stakeholders in the university, and as stakeholders, transparency is the least we deserve. The only reason for such a referendum to be blocked is if the referendum contained information that the university does not want its stakeholders to see. To conceal this information deepens the rift between the USG, the administration, and the student body. This referendum is an opportunity to bridge the gap between the university and its students, to allow all of us to participate in the decision-making process. We want the information in the survey that the referendum has to reveal facts that we need in order to improve the university and have it better reflect everyone in it. So to USG, please stop the bureaucratic pause on this. The student body wants this. We want this. And by this, I mean a university that is honest and clear with all of those who participate in it. Thank you.
The next speaker who is opposed is Haley Janish.
Good evening. I stand here today deeply concerned about this referendum, which promotes dangerous ideologies that undermine Jewish life on our campus. As senators, it is your responsibility to uphold fairness and integrity, much like a legitimate court of law. Yet your bylaws say nothing about preventing the same case from being reintroduced again and again. In any court of law, this would never be allowed. You have already ruled that this document is biased and must be rewritten before it can even be considered. And yet, it is back before you today, unamended, still biased, still harmful, and still a direct threat to the safety and well-being of Jewish students. You will hear differing opinions tonight. Some may even claim that this document is not aligned with the BDS movement. But I trust your judgment as senators to recognize that whether or not those three letters appear, this is textbook BDS. The use of terms such as apartheid and genocide show inherent bias. Students without a deep understanding of this very complex conflict will see those charged words and feel pressured to vote in favor. USG represents the student body, the entire student body. Holding this referendum vote is not representative of the views of many students on this campus. Please continue to uphold fairness and unity. Do not allow a platform for propaganda and pride. Allow Jewish students and all students to continue building community and peace amid a world already filled with chaos and uncertainty. Vote against this referendum. Thank you.
Next up, speaking in favor is Andrea Barrientos.
Hi, I'm Andre Barrientos. I'm a double major in pathobiology and sociology. As has been stated repeatedly throughout this resolution for the referendum, what is happening in Palestine right now is a genocide. Several human rights organizations, including Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, the International Court of Justice, and the International Criminal Court have all individually substantiated this claim. 2 years have passed and the situation in Gaza has only worsened. Again, what is happening in Gaza right now is a genocide, and a manufactured famine has been created to accelerate an ethnic cleansing of Palestinians. These are fundamental truths that impact us here at the University of Connecticut. Another important fundamental truth is that the University of Connecticut is complicit in this genocide. Our university maintains hundreds of active contracts with weapons manufacturers, including RTX and Pratt & Whitney, Lockheed Martin, and General Dynamics, all of whom have contributed to Israel's genocidal goals in Gaza. We also maintain active contracts with the U.S. Department of Defense and the State of Israel for similar projects. Through these contracts, every person's hands on this campus have become bloodied and murderous. The desire for this referendum emerged from a legitimate desire by undergraduate students to know whether or not their peers wish to continue being involved in genocide. 3 simple questions are asked in this referendum, and all of them are asking for transparency on where UConn has divested, or where UConn has invested their students' tuition money and fees, and if students wish to divest from this violence. The question of this referendum has been ongoing since February, and it begs the question, why is asking these questions to our students so difficult? If UConn truly wants to operate as committed to peace, justice, and human rights, as the Dodd Center should indicate, why are asking these questions so impossible? The undemocratic nature of this university is rampantly obvious, given that we don't even know where the money we give is being invested, especially knowing that our university is already in bed with people committing genocide. Thank you.
Next up, speaking in favor, next up, speaking opposed is Mark Curzon.
Hello all. My name is Mark. I'm a second-year mechanical engineering student here, and I want to take a step back and talk about what this referendum actually means for us as UConn students. We are being told that this is just a vote, just a way to get students' opinions. But if you read the language, you can see that it's anything but neutral. It is biased, leading, and pulled directly from the BDS playbook. And let's be honest what that means. Divestment from Israel is not some random idea. It is a central tactic of BDS, a movement that, according to the New York Times and other reports, has direct ties to Hamas and other terror groups. The day after Hamas carried out the October 7th massacre, BDS praised it as powerful. That tells you everything you need to know about where the sympathy lies. I don't want my student government to be aligned with that. I don't want to sit here and feel like USG, the group that should represent all of us, is being turned into a vehicle for propaganda. That demonizes my community. That is exactly what this movement does. Its purpose is not to promote peace or justice. Its purpose is to divide, to spread misinformation, and to spread hate at campuses just like ours. This is why the committee process failed. That is why the language will never work, and that is why USG should vote this down. Because we deserve a student government that represents all students, not one that serves as a tool for a hateful movement tied to terrorism. Please vote no. Thanks.
Next up, speaking in favor is Tomas Hinckley.
Hi, my name is Tomas. I'm a junior, political science and sociology double major. And honestly, I'm really just here to talk to the senators. I'm not here to talk about Israel or Palestine or any of that. I'm just here to talk about the fact that in my 2 years at this institution thus far, I cannot think of a time when as many people as those who are in this room now and at the original February internal affairs meeting have ever given this much of a shit about anything that USG has done. I mean, honestly, this organization is supposed to be a democratic body that represents students. And the one time students actually show up to something you do and are like, hey, we want this, you balk at the plate. I mean, you completely fumbled it, putting it into a committee that was so nonsensical and stupid. And now we're back again, and you got a second try. I mean, all the people here gave a shit about it. 184 people gave a shit about it at the original meeting and want you to do this. Genuinely, you have one job. And it is amazing to me, as someone that works for another tier 3, that anything we do can get students' attention like this has. So just do it. Support it because it is democratic. It is a glorified fucking poll, just like the resolution's author said back in fucking February. I mean, really, nothing that this does is going to impact really UConn, because they're gonna ignore it either fucking way. But at least what it can do is
30
tell you
seconds.
guys that you fucking did what your goddamn students asked you to fucking do. I bide my time, thank you.
Next up, speaking opposed is Mark Curzon.
He just spoke.
Next up is Sydney Monka.
Hi, my name is Sydney, and I want to speak as a UConn student who cares about what our student government represents. When I first read the referendum language, I was shocked. It didn't read like something that was asking for opinion. It read like propaganda. It's biased, leading, and pulls from a political campaign that has nothing to do with their daily lives as students. The use of inaccurate and widely disputed terms like apartheid and genocide not only makes the referendum questions inherently biased, it qualifies them as a push poll designed to prompt a specific result. Upon reading the questions, students who have not learned about this issue will have a worse understanding of the diversity of opinion and complexities it involves, and will be led to vote in favor of it without any other consideration. True neutrality does not sway votes in one way or another. As a result, I feel like my own student government, the group that's supposed to represent me and all of my peers, is being turned into a tool to spread misinformation and hatred about a cause that I care about. That's not what USG stands for. It hurts to think that instead of focusing on making UConn better for all students, we're being dragged into a campaign designed to divide us and demonize my community. I don't want USG to be taken over in that way. We cannot let USG be turned into a tool to spread propaganda and hate. Biased language that strips away
30
any
seconds.
neutrality. Please, do not let this referendum go forward. Vote no and send the message that UConn stands for truth, fairness, unity, and not propaganda. Thank you for your time.
Next up is Abhinav Hazarika, speaking in favor.
About 3 weeks ago, news came out of, and I quote, the settlement project advancing in Gaza from the Israeli state. This project had been halted due to fierce international opposition. However, since the rise of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his right-wing coalition, there's been a sharp rise in the expansion of the settlements even before October 7th. Several countries protested the call to this expansion of the settlements in the West Bank. Addressing this in an international response, Prime Minister Netanyahu said a couple of days ago, "We will safeguard our heritage, our land, and our security," when giving another push for the settler project. To show why this referendum's passing has relevance beyond this room, I ask that you please bear with me the following quote. "Against all this, we must stick firmly to the aim that we have set for our foreign policy, namely that the people must be assured the territorial area which is necessary for it to exist on this earth, and only for such action as is undertaken to secure those ends can it be lawful in the eyes of God and our posterity to allow the blood of our people to be shed once again. And the statesmen who will have decreed this sacrifice may be persecuted by their contemporaries, but posterity will absolve them from all guilt, having demanded this offering from their people." Mein Kampf, The Right to Self-Defense, page 531. Please hold your reaction to follow with me to the next quote. Israel at the start of the 21st century is undoubtedly one of the great success stories of the 28th
30
century.
seconds.
Communism, fascism, socialism, and many other isms have crumbled into dust, but Zionism, the national liberation movement of the Jewish people, the one true liberation movement amidst so many false ones, has far from crumbled. It has fended off powerful foes and is on the verge of creating the second most successful technological society on earth, the Silicon Wadi. It is, as it is becoming now. In a profound sense, Zionism has achieved its central purpose of securing Jewish independence in the Jewish land, and it can look into the future and its challenges with confidence. This text is from a durable piece from
Finish
history.
time. At this time, we have no more speakers signed up to speak opposed, so I will call the remainder of the 10 speakers who have signed up to speak in favor. Next up is Mel Rivera.
Okay. Hi, I'm Mel Rivera. I am here representing UConn Jewish Voice for Peace and UConn Jewish Collective. We refuse to allow our Jewish identity to be weaponized as a tool to justify violence across the globe and to Palestinians. For over 2 years, we have watched an active genocide be committed in our name. UConn continues to support the deaths of children through their investment in ties with communities like Pratt & Whitney, Collins Aerospace, and Raytheon, to name a few. These companies have profited off death on Palestinians for the past 2 years, and anyone who protests who raises their voice against this obvious evil is labeled anti-Semitic. I'm here to tell you that it is not. Saying Palestinians deserve to live lives in peace and comfort is not anti-Semitic. Saying Israel is an apartheid state is not anti-Semitic. Saying you want to see the university divest itself from genocide is not anti-Semitic. Saying that we need to spend university funds on machines of death to protect Jews is an insult to us. It is an insult to all the Jews who have suffered from real anti-Semitism. Don't put that evil on us, not in our name. As Jews, we are telling you to do the right thing. Have a referendum. Ask the students if they want to divest from a genocide and apartheid state. If you care about ending oppression, if you care about creating a safe space on campus for all students, and if you care about listening to students, have the referendum. Thank you.
Our next speaker in favor is Allison Powell.
Is the other thing handled?
Allison, it's your turn.
Hello, my name is Allison Powell. I'm a Jewish mechanical engineering student. Let me be clear. No country, company, or person should be above laws and morals. The state of Israel should not be placed above laws and morals. Here are some facts. This week, the United Nations has declared that Israel is committing a genocide against Palestinians and that there is a famine in Gaza. At a bare minimum, over 60,000 Palestinians have been killed by the Israeli military since October 2023. Over 18,000 of those killed were children, including people missing under the rubble that covers all of Gaza and those dead from preventable diseases. The number is likely in the hundreds of thousands. Over 2,000 Palestinians have been killed by Israeli forces just trying to collect rations during a famine. One of the greatest teachings in Judaism is that human life is sacred. I know this is a belief that many people of all different backgrounds hold. Human life is sacred. This is not controversial. It truly pains me that it feels as if some people don't believe the sanctity of human life includes Palestinians. UConn's money is invested in companies and a country which helps carry out these mass killings. Our school's money perpetuates famine and genocide. As senators, it is your job to represent the students. Why wouldn't you want to ask the students of UConn if they are okay with their school's money supporting atrocities? If you believe that life is sacred for all people and don't want your name, your money, and your school to be tied with these senseless killings, vote to have the referendum. Thank you.
passive when the forces that our great-grandparents fought are regaining power over the planet. Why? I believe that history has shown that these speeches that Avi gave share an ethnocentric narcissism and obsession with absolute security led to horrors when we stand quiet. Today, I ask you, dear senators, consider the relevance of building a university where fascism and Nazism are not cultivated, a university that rejects contributing to its development and militarization. Yes, we all must make money and graduate and whatnot, but if we are not careful on how, with whom, and where, we might as well be signing the final contract on the souls for the next wave of global fascist and Nazi domination. Will you stand against fascism, Nazism, racism, xenophobia, bigotry, and idolatry, or will you stand still until there is nothing left for you to do but watch? We are the youth of this planet, and it is up to us whether our descendants will be able to inhabit it, and if so, which one, and on what conditions. Remember that we have grown to fear the defenders of peace and humanity at one point. So I ask you, support this referendum so that UConn students are able to contribute to the fight of those who came before us for a livable future. Please, do not give up in the chance for a present that is humane and a future as well.
30 seconds.
Please do not give up on the project of humanity.
At this time, public comment is closed. I will be tabling verbal reports at this meeting, and we will move into our voting items. Our first voting item is the approval of the minutes from September 3rd. Are there any questions or points of discussion on the minutes of this meeting? Seeing none, I will move to pass them by unanimous consent. Are there any objections? The minutes are approved by unanimous consent. Voting items B through G are confirmations of committee representatives to the University Senate. I will move now that these items be considered as one and ask that that be approved by unanimous consent. Are there any objections? Seeing none, we will consider voting items B through G as one. These are the confirmations of Cameron Costa to the University Senate Common Curriculum Plus Committee, Angela Montes-Diaz to the Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion, or JEDI Committee, Jabril Akhtar to the Student Welfare Committee, William Rapinski to the University Budget Committee, Olivia Eshu to the University Planning Committee, and Karitha Subramanian to the Senate and to the Enrollment Committee. Andy, would you like to confirm these nominations?
So basically, this is us just putting forward our senators for who we want on the university committees. Just like this Senate, there's a University Senate, and just like University Senate, there's also university committees. And so we have these various committees, and so these are the people that I've chosen as who I want to be representing students and who I want to be advocating for in those spaces. I think these people are really wonderful, and they do a really good job at what they do. And I think that this is going to be really great to have them be part of these voices on the university. It's making a lot of difficult decisions with a lot of the budget cuts that we're seeing and a lot of the need to, I guess make difficult decisions for our future.
Are there any questions? Any points of discussion? Seeing none, I will move to confirm all 6 representatives by unanimous consent. Are there any objections? The nominations are confirmed. We are now moving into discussion on an act concerning the passing of the spring 2025 referendum to be released to UConn's undergraduate fee-paying student body. This legislation was presented to the Senate in February, so there will not be a presentation of it at this time. We will move straight into discussion. What this legislation would do is, if passed here by a 2/3 majority, it would then move on to USG's governing board, which is all of the elected officials of the organization, so the president, vice president, chief diversity officer, comptroller, speaker of the Senate, and chief justice, as well as all of the directors of the 3 committees, the director of Tier 2 funding, and the director of organization support. If it passes that body with a majority of its membership voting in favor, it would send a referendum to the student body on these 3 questions on the screen. I will now open the floor to discussion. Joel. For this discussion, I will be prioritizing senators who have not spoken over ones trying to speak a second time.
We're good, all right. Joel Harris for the minutes. Good evening. I would like to use my time to go through the referendum itself. The first clause, as well as several others, cite Amnesty International. Amnesty International publishes reports which directly quote Hamas-controlled media sources. To reiterate, the report criticizing Israel cites statements made by a UN-recognized terrorist organization at war with Israel. Senators, that is the definition of bias. Next, in the second whereas clause, Human Rights Watch, an additional source within this document, refers to articles written by Omar Shakir, Human Rights Watch's Israel-Palestine director, who signed a pledge in 2015 to, quote, honor the BDS call, end quote. To cite an individual who agrees with the intent of the referendum cannot possibly be construed as neutral or fair. As for the International Court of Justice, to be completely clear, the court did not rule on the merits of the genocide claim, as this referendum implies. Rather, the court issued provisional measures, which is a step taken in many such cases, as the court prepares to begin the long process of investigating the claim. The key takeaways are that the court's orders do not reflect any assessment of the merits of South Africa's claims or Israel's counterargument. It repeatedly stressed that it had not determined any violations of the Genocide Convention had occurred. South Africa even asked the ICJ to call for a ceasefire in their provisional measures, and the ICJ refused multiple times. If they thought this was a genocide, they would not have done that. Also, Joan Dagnu, the president of ICJ at the time, specifically clarified that the court did not rule that there is a plausible, quote, plausible genocide. I would continue if prompted, and I do have a complete rebuttal of 100% of this referendum. It's 26 pages long. If any of you are interested, I have multiple copies and a QR code. I'll hand it to you once I'm done. But for now, I'll skip to the therefore clauses. A referendum to divest from the only Jewish state based on libels and propaganda is the definition of anti-Semitism. If you replace the word Israel with the phrase, the only Jewish state, you will see how Jewish students on campus view this document and the biased nature of the referendum itself. The referendum calls on the UConn Foundation to disclose its investment. However, the UConn Foundation's sole purpose is to support UConn and UConn Health to advance their educational, scientific, cultural, and research missions, end quote. Divesting from companies that create opportunities runs contrary to that mission. Further, the second clause of the resolution refers to UConn's endowment fund, charged with advancing UConn's mission statement. However, it also feels the need to claim genocide and human rights abuses, both of which, as mentioned previously, stand on shaky ground. The second and the third clause both use the word ethical in such a way to imply anything to the contrary is unethical. This, simply put, is an unacceptable word to be featured within a poll, as it implies a correct answer to the proposed question, which cannot be found on a poll. This is not a referendum. This is a piece of propaganda written in a way to convince the student body of a particular narrative while ostracizing those who do not agree. Such phrasing directly violates Bylaw 6, which I also have today, and can pass this out if anyone is interested, which says the questions of a referendum should be written clearly and concisely to make sure the questions are as neutral as possible. The phrasing of these questions is not neutral, senators, and they are certainly not concise. Why do I say this? Senators, I say this because we failed. Today we've heard from multiple Jewish freshmen who within their first month of being here have been compelled to speak to ensure their safety on campus. In my first month, I couldn't get from Babbage to the Union without using a GPS. Yet here they are, positively terrified of the power you hold. This is not how their college experience should be. We failed them. Instead of attending events celebrating their identity, they're attending Senate meetings to defend it. Just today, we've heard from students missing a holiday to talk to you. We failed them when on Shabbos, the day of rest, I've heard this very vote being discussed and its repercussions. We failed them time and time again by continuing to give our ear to a vote so obviously and personally insulting. We failed them. Students should not be forced to choose between religious observances and we're debating whether a question that promotes lies and hatred against them should go to the student body. That is anti-Semitism. And only the Jewish community can make that call. The same way a Palestinian decides what makes him Palestinian. We each get to define our own identities and the concepts intrinsic to them. Now, my assertion might be met with some opposition. The authors of this referendum seem to vehemently deny that this referendum is anti-Semitic. However, I call on you to remember the outrage from 2 weeks ago when students reported that Palestinians had been asked to define Palestinian. And I agree with them. That's an insulting question. But how then do those same people presume to tell Jewish students what anti-Semitism is? Senators, we saw in in another room in this building 2 weeks ago, when Jewish students were called brainless and told their hands were bloody, how quickly a vote such as this can lead to hate. Even today, we were called Nazis. I feel deeply for the crisis in Gaza and for the innocent people suffering there. And this referendum does nothing to help them, does nothing to end the war, or bring peace closer. Instead, it only gives cover to Hamas. You've heard from multiple students come up and say that this bill and this referendum being active on campus will make them feel unsafe. Do not fail them. Vote no.
Are there other points of discussion? Tamara, you can go.
Yes, Tamara!
Hi, everybody. I want to say, first of all, thank you, everybody, for coming to speak. I'm glad to see a lot of engagement. So my name is Tamara Segal, and I'm a senator for the College of Engineering. Since February of this year, when this type of referendum was first introduced, and especially in the past few days, I've listened closely and thought extensively about the right answer. Because of the great nuance regarding this issue, I feel compelled to make a statement explaining my decision. As a Jewish student, I naturally care about the well-being of UConn's Jewish community, and it pains me to know of the distress that some have felt and continue to feel. But I cannot agree that this referendum is anti-Semitic. It does not target, implicate, or even mention Jews, but rather focuses on political actions and humanitarian crises. I appreciate the very real fears and emotions of many Jewish students on campus, but I also know that this document does not sow seeds of hate nor violence. As a representative of the College of Engineering, I want to support the success of every engineering student. However, we can all agree, right, that not every vocation contributes to the betterment of society. Isn't that what makes a career successful? Students have the right to speak up for what they want. This referendum gives them the opportunity to make their voices heard on what they believe truly maximizes the benefit to society and improves human health, to quote from the College of Engineering's driving tenet. I think that investment in the military-industrial complex is just as much of a political statement as divesting from it would be, and as such, UConn students deserve a say in what this university's statement should be. Lastly, as an engineer and a global citizen, I care about sustainable solutions. While not hateful, this referendum is biased. The context provided is one-sided, argumentative, rather than informative, and intended to sway the reader toward one answer. It's not because it uses the word divestment or genocide or Palestinian, but because of the phrasing and the fact that the author cites her own view on the matter as context. Of course, I don't think that this question can be posed 100% neutrally, but I think it needs to be better. Will passing this referendum today make a statement? Yes. But will it be the right statement, one that supports democracy and justice? I don't think so. Instead, it will send the message that USG sacrificed its bylaws out of haste and hindered the true measure of this campus's opinion. This referendum deals with the matter of whether or not UConn should support war, violence, and mass death, including that toward and of children. I admit that I am strongly in favor of UConn's divestment from the military-industrial complex. Some may say that in this dire situation, formalities and technicalities should be bypassed, and I understand this view, but I believe rather that with such an importance, it must be handled properly. This is not meant to be a momentary fix. Instead, we're supposed to be working towards a sustainable and lasting solution to the grave injustices the world faces. And when we turn to the Senate as a tool, we have to respect its procedures. Therefore, I don't believe the referendum should be passed in its current state today. However, I don't want the dream of this referendum to die here on the Senate floor tonight. I want to push through to make it what it should be. Although the committee was unsuccessful, I want to continue the work personally and with the support and insight of others to refine the referendum so it poses this question without persuasion, but instead lets each voter's natural morals and inclinations guide them. I believe strongly in this referendum and in the voice of our student body. I want to represent that voice respectfully, truthfully, and according to USG procedure. Thank you.
Next up, we have Dave.
Good evening, everyone. Dave Silvestri for the minutes. I serve as a representative for the College of Engineering. I wasn't planning on speaking today, but after considering the impact of the legislation on the floor, I feel the responsibility to make a statement. We're here tonight to weigh a referendum and ask this university to sever partnerships and investments tied to some of the world's largest companies. I understand the passion behind it. Actually, I love the passion behind it. It comes from a place of wanting justice, of wanting UConn to stand for what's right. These are values I deeply respect. But I also know my responsibility to make sure that UConn remains a place where opportunities for students are fostered, where the hard work pays off, and where their dreams are not sacrificed in the names of symbolism. Let me be absolutely clear. If this referendum is disseminated as written, it will devastate not just the College of Engineering, but it will ripple across the entire University of Connecticut. Here's the reality. If we cut these programs, engineering students lose funding. They lose internships. They lose co-ops and life-changing research opportunities. But if we're being realistic, does anybody here actually believe for a second that UConn, home to one of the largest and strongest engineering programs in New England, with 15% of its student body in engineering, would ever let that program collapse? Of course not. They'll protect engineering. They'll take the hit somewhere else. And where will that land? And from hearing all your majors, majority of your programs on the liberal arts, the humanities, political science, the disciplines that are already first on the chopping block when budget cuts come down. We saw it before. Last year's audit eliminated the multiple majors. Do you know how many were engineering? 0. Because engineering brings in revenue for the university, big revenue. Cuts will fall on the programs that are already vulnerable, the ones fighting to stay alive. I do not want to see another round of these majors erased because of misguided justice. If UConn severs ties with these companies, the students who dream of building satellites, of putting rovers on Mars, of designing drones and advanced machinery, will see those dreams shattered. The clubs that give students hands-on experience, clubs like Formula SAE, underwater robotics, will lose their sponsors. Formula SAE, the second best team in the entire country, actually brought some of my friends here to UConn. These clubs bring students in, build skills, and launch careers. Without them, we don't just lose bragging rights, we lose the heartbeat of student innovation. And mark my words, these student-led programs will be the first to go. This is bigger than just one college. These partnerships drive research that benefit the entire world. Our federal government is currently slashing billions from research and science. Why would we willingly push ourselves down that same destructive path? Why would we cut the very lifeline that keeps UConn at the forefront of discovery? Keep in mind that a significant chunk of what these companies do is not even related to warfare. And one could argue, not saying this is my personal opinion, that what they do related to warfare could be a net good. Think of Ukraine. Think of our NATO allies. Let's be honest with ourselves. These contracts, our contracts with these companies are but a drop in the bucket. No, a drop in the ocean. Do we truly believe that if UConn walks away from Lockheed, from GD, RTX, Pratt Whitney, that the war in the Middle East will suddenly end, that peace will spring forth in Gaza? No. What will happen is that UConn's engineering program will be crippled. Opportunities for students will vanish, and UConn as a whole will suffer. All to make a statement that unfortunately changes nothing. The referendum fails to create any actual change to outweigh the negative that UConn gets. And no matter what the results of the referendum are, UConn, and primarily Redeca, will never divest. But companies will distance themselves afterward. I am not here to dismiss anyone's pain over tragedies of the world, but we cannot solve international conflicts by sacrificing our students' futures. We cannot dismantle the very programs that sustain this university for the sake of making a point. Our responsibility is to our students, every single one of them, and to ensure that UConn remains a place where they can thrive. So I ask all of you senators, are we here to destroy opportunities, or are we here to build them? Are we here to shrink UConn, or are we here to keep it strong? I want to fight for my constituents. I want to fight for the students who came here with the dreams of building their future and careers. And I want to fight against this referendum because I believe UConn's mission is not to tear down, but to build up. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. As a senator, the referendum, with all its language, still is trying to achieve the same thing. Whether it's phrased in a way that doesn't acknowledge the existence of Palestinians like those opposing wants, or its use of words such as genocide, which has been confirmed to be in existence by the UN and scholars of genocide. Students have always been on the right side of history protesting. In Vietnam, the civil rights movement, Allah, etc. Are we supposed to believe this time we're wrong? There is precisely something black and white about the genocide occurring in Gaza by the state of Israel. You're either in support of the ethnic cleansing of Palestinians, or you're against it. I said this before and I'll say it again. If you can't condemn the killing of a child simply because the word Palestinian comes before it, then don't talk about human rights and justice. There's nothing complex about this. We tried for productive dialogue in the committee, but if you can't agree to the existence of the population you so deeply want to erase, then where do we start? Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, Senators, Mr. Speaker, Senators, the wonderful audience, thank you all so very much for being here tonight. And I want to let you know that your passion does not go unnoticed. My position on this piece is the same as it was the very first time that it was brought to the floor, mainly because this is essentially the same piece. And I'm sure the author and the sponsor of this piece have labored over their craft, but in the first time that it was discussed, there seemed to be consensus that the proposed language was not unbiased. And I have to agree with a lot of sentiments that was expressed by the speakers, both in public comment section and by senators, that this is a highly charged document that wants to pressure students into voting a certain way. And I also want to make note of this, that I don't want this to be a mockery of the responsibles entrusted with us as elected officials. And by simply passing this as it is, knowing its flaws and biases, we're essentially saying it is acceptable to let things slide. It is acceptable to lower our standards. It is acceptable to go against our own bylaws, namely bylaw 6, referendum procedures, to cater to a particular political agenda. I for one, despise that. I also wanted to mention that pointing fingers, assuming blames, and accusing each other over issues we really don't have any control over as a community, as we unfortunately saw and heard, is really below us. We've seen attempts to villainize some of these students here, which in reality, they are also trying to make it through Husky CC crash tests. They're trying to submit their assignments in time, and they're trying to graduate in a timely manner. So if we could put those rhetoric and those language aside, it would be much appreciated. And I just want to make this note that education is the experience that is binding us here. We are here to get the most out of our college experience, and we should seek, as senators, we should seek to foster the sense of community, the sense of cohesion for the undergraduate fee-paying students of University of Connecticut's North Campus, period. Nothing more, nothing less. And the last thing we want is further division. My credentials is that I am an international student from Iran, a country that is heavily involved in this conflict. and is located in the very same region that this piece concerns. And it goes without saying that I don't have much security here either, not with this administration anyway. So the last thing we want is to champion and enable further division. And across the country, there seems to be that climates are already alarmingly choking, and what we allow here to slide, as much as we want to pretend, does not bear any consequences. In fact, is not merely rhetorical. And we've all seen how ugly and tragically violent it can get. I also object to manipulation of words. It is, to me, preposterous to claim that voting to include indicative and leading clauses bears any democratic value, especially in a way that it wants to persuade and it wants to manipulate students to vote in a certain way. The questions being proposed about Israel and language used about this country are not neutral, are not factual, are not appropriate for a student government referendum. They're written with biased, inflammatory language, and as I mentioned, present false claims as if they're facts in order to shape students' opinion. This alone should be enough a reason for us to reject this. But if USG decides to move forward anyway, if it allows this one-sided, biased, and misinformed questions onto the ballot, then fairness only requires that counter questions also be included. Otherwise, USG would be admitting that it has abandoned its neutrality and allowed itself to be used as a tool for propaganda. The questions that I could come up with, and we could have a little discussion about, are as follows. 1, should UConn condemn the boycott, divest, and sanction, also known as BDS campaign, as a form of hate due to its tie to Hamas, its praise of the October 7th massacre, its effort to shut down Israeli-Palestinian cooperation, and its stated end goal of eliminating the state of Israel? 2, in the light of fighting anti-Semitism globally, should UConn reject initiatives that promote that form of bigotry, including by erasing Jewish history or spreading misinformation about Jews, and reaffirm its commitment to protecting all students equally and fostering understanding amongst different communities on campus? 3, should UConn students affirm that both Israelis and Palestinians have deep and real ties to the land of Israel, that without a tyranny, and that both deserve to live there with dignity, freedom, and prosperity without the tyranny of terrorist groups like Hamas, and that our campus should promote peace through education and understanding? These questions, while leading, are actually based on facts. If questions like these would be unacceptable to put before the student body, then the questions being considered today, which promotes distortion in addition to its violation of our bylaws, must also be unacceptable. To allow those while rejecting these would prove that USG has decided to abandon its neutrality and turn itself into a tool for propaganda. This is why I'm voting no, and I urge my fellow senators to follow in suit. I, for one, do not like to see USG be hijacked in this way. And if you choose to allow it, let's give an actual consideration to put these counter questions as well. With that, I yield the floor.
Molly?
Molly Meyerson for the minutes. I would like to start by looking at the language used in the referendum questions themselves, as they would be sent out to the student body if this goes to a vote. These questions would be used as the basis for data collection, and data collected through non-neutral means is not indicative of public opinion. These 3 questions we have before us are biased and leading. The Merriam-Webster Dictionary defines bias as a verb to give a settled and often prejudiced outlook to. With one look at the 3 referendum questions, it is easy to see that this definition applies. The resources provided and cited with this resolution, such as Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch, have long history of espousing anti-Israel sentiment. I am not here to debate or discuss the validity of such sentiment, but to point out the issue in citing only these sources. To present a non-biased debate, one must use sources representative of all sides in the debate, not just the side that one agrees with. To do so is disingenuous and conflicts with accurate survey methodology. Merriam-Webster also defines a leading question as a question asked in a way that is intended to produce a desired answer. The use of the words apartheid and genocide pushes the reader to think in a certain way, to fall victim to preconceived notions, and to let those notions dictate their thought process. How can a poll that so clearly pushes responses in one direction be considered neutral? The use of these leading questions invalidates the referendum as a whole. In the USG bylaws, Bylaw 6 referendum procedure explicitly states the questions of a referendum should be written clearly and concisely to make the questions as neutral as possible. The first referendum question contains 83 words. The second question contains 86 words. And the third question contains 96 words. I ask you, how are these questions possibly construed as concise if they are close to 100 words each? Further, they are far from neutral. The use of words with such strong negative connotations undermines the neutrality and therefore the validity of the entire referendum according to the USG bylaws. Although this referendum is being proposed as a simple poll to gauge public opinion, it means more than that to Jewish students. As the ex officio Hillel Senator, it is my duty to represent the needs and concerns of the Jewish community on campus. And by and large, many Jewish students are deeply concerned by this referendum. It gives the impression that USG has taken a side and doesn't support the Jewish community on campus. Our campus has already seen an uptick in anti-Semitic incidents, such as posts on our Yik Yak saying, "From the river to the sea, Palestine will be Jew-free," and Instagram comments saying, "Imagine if the German club hosted a Hitler Fest." Comments such as these are based in falsehoods like the ones promoted in these questions and invoke hatred toward the Jewish community and make us feel unsafe and unwelcome on campus. Even tonight, many Jewish students who otherwise wanted to speak and make their voices heard felt too scared and intimidated to do so. This referendum hasn't even been voted on yet and is already negatively affecting our campus climate. On other campuses, when similar referendums have been brought to a vote, campus climate has deteriorated and anti-Semitism has skyrocketed. During a divestment vote at the University of Chicago, Jewish students were targeted on Yik Yak. One message read, "Gas them, burn them, and dismantle their power structure." At UC San Diego, Georgetown, and the University of Illinois, swastikas were graffitied on Jewish campus buildings during the voting periods. Anti-Semitism on our campus has already increased in light of the ongoing war, and putting this unconstitutional, biased, and leading referendum to a vote will only make it worse. Therefore, I urge you to vote against this referendum and show that you stand against hatred and anti-Semitism. Thank you.
Sophie?
Sophia Rifkin for the minutes. Hello all, my name is Sophia Rifkin, and I am a senator on the undergraduate student government. By now, many of us are familiar with this referendum, but for those who are new, I want to explain my concerns with it. The language of this referendum is a clear violation of USG bylaws. Bylaw 6, Section 5 states, that the question of a referendum should be written clearly and concisely to make the question as neutral as possible. This referendum does the opposite. Its biased, inflammatory language would manipulate students into responding in a specific way, while doing nothing to promote understanding of the reality on the ground. On several occasions, the referendum quotes Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch to support claims of apartheid and genocide against the Palestinian people. These two organizations have been called into question for their clear anti-Israel bias. Amnesty has hosted speakers at its events who praised terrorist attacks, and its U.S. director was condemned by every Jewish Democratic member of Congress for saying Israel should not exist as a Jewish state in 2022. One of Amnesty's own researchers admitted their Gaza reports were often based on inaccurate information. Human Rights Watch has the same problem. Its own founder, Robert Bernstein, said its work on Israel badly distorted the issues and fueled polarization, specifically on college campuses. And a senior editor at Human Rights Watch admitted the group routinely violated the basic standards of rigor and balance. Elliot Abrams, an author for the Council of Foreign Relations, voiced his concerns with these organizations, stating that when two such NGOs dominate the field, questions may arise as to their own internal democratic gap. Such large and rich organizations report to no one, nor of course are they democratically run internally. The very independence of NGOs, one of their supposed greatest strengths, can become an issue when two organizations so dominate the field. It is clear that Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch share an anti-Israel bias as well as a fact-checking problem when it comes to Israel. So how is it fair that this referendum should use them as its main point of reference? As Sadaf noted, if USG were to allow these one-sided anti-Israel questions on the ballot, fairness would demand that counter-questions also be included. Questions that highlight BDS's ties to Hamas, its praise of the October 7th massacre, and its role in spreading anti-Semitism. And if such questions would not be allowed, then the ones proposed in the referendum should not be allowed either. We are being told this is just a poll, just a way to get students' opinions, but the language makes that impossible. Words like apartheid and genocide, despite their false applications in this context, carry heavy negative connotations and push voters in one direction. This is not a neutral poll. It is irrefutably discrimination, which is not only a violation of university policy, but of state and federal law. This referendum would essentially turn USG into a tool to spread misinformation and hatred, opening the door for discrimination on campus. That is not what USG stands for. So I ask you, are you willing to let yourself and this body be used as a tool to spread that agenda? And if you are, then fairness demands you also include the counter questions, as Sadaf mentioned earlier. But if you know, as I do, that a student referendum should never be used to push one side's political agenda, then you cannot allow the question before us to move forward. That is not what UConn stands for. Uphold your duty as a senator to all UConn students and vote against this referendum. Thank you for your time.
Are there any points of discussion? Final call for senators to make a point of discussion. Smith?
Hello. As you see, I was a little hesitant to speak up just now. And with that being said, I want to thank everyone who has spoken. And it's really a brave thing to come up here, and it's really scary. I've spoken at every opportunity this referendum came up, during the first internal affairs meeting in February, the Senate meeting in February, the meeting 2 weeks ago here at Senate, and now today. And I've been consistent throughout that the wording in this legislation is biased. It is against our bylaws, and as another senator has mentioned earlier today, that is against our bylaws. We have to follow procedures. The referendum position was added to our bylaws, I believe, last fall, and there's a pretty stringent high bar. It has to pass a 2/3 vote of the Senate. It has to then pass the governing board. And this is our first referendum that we have a chance to vote on, so it really is a big deal that we have to take this with the utmost scrutiny as much possible. And as some of you may know, I worked on creating I made the motion to create the committee earlier this year. It was in the Daily Campus today, if you read it by any chance. That obviously was not a success, but I think it tells another story that for those that were involved, I heard 2 weeks ago that it was a very uncomfortable experience. Many people did not feel validated in their feelings. They were made to feel ashamed of who they are. And I'm afraid that if this legislation passes and the gut board passes, the whole student body would have to go through the same experience that those members of the committee would have to go through. And many of us would not feel safe here at the University of Connecticut. I myself, I'm a transfer student. This is my second year at the University of Connecticut, and I've been I really love the culture we have here. There's so many diverse cultures and communities here. When I first started involved in fair, it's just great to see the diversity here, and I would hate for us to be divided and not feel like we're all just one united Huskies. We're all Huskies. And so I'd like to urge my fellow senators to vote against this piece of legislation. I know it's maybe not the most popular position, but it is our duty as senators to follow our bylaws and also make sure all students are safe on campus, not just the majority, but all students. With that, I yield my time.
Are there any senators who have not spoken who would like to speak now? Seeing none, sit out.
Set out for the minutes. I wanted to motion to vote.
Sagaf has made a motion to suspend debate. Tommy, is that a second? Okay. Prepare a voting form, please. So we are first off, I am able to recognize one senator for up to 90 seconds to speak against the motion to suspend debate. Is there any senator who would like to speak in favor of continuing discussion? Okay. We are about to take a vote on the motion to suspend debate. We are not voting on this legislation itself right now. A vote of yes is to end discussion here and then immediately vote on the legislation. A vote of no is to continue discussion. Are there any senators who are confused about what we are voting on right now? Okay. Senators can scan this form to cast their votes. This motion needs 2/3 to pass. Abstentions are not counted in the total number of votes for that 2/3 requirement. Are there any senators who have not voted? Last call for senators who have not voted. Okay. With 24 votes in favor, 0 votes against, and 3 abstentions, this motion passes and discussion on the legislation is suspended. The next vote that we will cast is on the legislation itself, an act concerning the passing of the spring 2025 referendum to be released to UConn's undergraduate fee-paying student body. For this legislation as well, to pass the Senate, a 2/3 vote in the majority is required. Once again, abstentions are not counted in the total number of votes cast for that 2/3 requirement. We will vote as soon as possible. Okay, this vote is live now. Are there any senators who have not voted? Okay, we'll leave the vote open for 1 minute. Last call for senators who have not voted. Are there any senators who have not yet voted? With 8 votes in favor, 15 opposed, and 4 abstentions, this legislation fails. That concludes our voting items. We do not have any discussion items on the agenda. For the announcements, our USG Fall Senate elections are currently open. Voting closes tomorrow, Thursday, the 18th at noon. That is the last announcement at this meeting. I will call the close at 7:56. Thank you, everyone.
Hey there, buddy. Awesome. Hi, Chris.